mate?
Is that what I sound like?
The fact that it's an energy podcast and I learned nothing about energy.
Do you know what I do like about our podcast? We're not scared to tackle the big subjects.
I was looking at some cooking instructions.
You actually went and did that?
Should I give a little intro on Utility Click?
No.
When we do a one-to-one on Teams, your face is just much bigger.
Yeah, I mean, it falls apart when you dissect it.
Let's push on this.
I was going to say, yeah, he gets his comfy clothes back at the end, though, doesn't he? So it's a happy ending. I feel like we need a hook to get them back for the next episode.
They're going to be like, I met someone really, really interesting this weekend who, in a good way, did not stop talking about energy procurement.
Should we start the US podcast now, do you think?
I thought that was the podcast.
All right, mate. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm alright. Do you want to talk about what we were just talking about?
My haircut.
Yeah.
That you didn't notice I've had my haircut. You've seen me twice since I've had it done.
Maybe it's because when we do a one-to-one on Teams, your face is just much bigger.
Yeah.
It looks good.
Thank you. Yeah. Again, done by the wife. Haven't paid for it since lockdown's eased. So,
do you think you will start paying for it?
Probably at some point, but you know, she's had a good lot of practice now. So over the last year, so it's
Was this the first time? Was lockdown the first time she ever cut your hair?
Oh yeah. Definitely wouldn't consider it before. I don't know. Just used to going every month or two, spending £20, getting it done. You know, that was
20.
Yeah. I think it's like.
Where do you go?
Locally. So I think it's probably about 18.
What, like a local barber's?
Yeah.
That's expensive.
Is it? Yeah.
You should shop around.
They do offer you. They offer you a coffee, and they've got a PlayStation.
Have they?
Yeah, like a massive screen of the PlayStation, and they're quite young, so I feel quite hit.
Are they nice?
Yeah, really nice. Yeah, nice.
See, I would probably pay a bit more for a nice person that makes you feel comfortable. Do you have a coffee?
Yeah, I do. Depends how much time I've got. If it's just nipping
Did
out
I
lunch.
ask you whether you play the PlayStation as well?
I think I may have done. It's not like a regular occurrence. They've normally got FIFA on, or what's the big one that everyone? Fortnite. They've normally got that playing. So again, a bit too young for me. But
yeah, agreed. Do you give a tip as well?
Well, that's the thing, because I think it's £18 or £18.50. So
they do that deliberately, don't they?
They do. You can't then ask for £2 back or whatever it is, can you? So you just say keep the change every time.
But this is what another positive. Sorry, what's the best way of phrasing this? One of the good things to have come out of COVID is the fact that because everyone now accepts contactless, there's much less pressure to actually give a tip.
Yeah, but I don't like that sometimes. When we order a takeaway and they still stand there waiting for it, and I think, well, I can't tip you because I can't give you anything. Surely that's part of the.
I know. Do you know what? You're so right about that. We get a Uber Eats, and we've got you know when they say leave a note. We leave a note and we say, please just leave it in the porch because we've got a baby sleeping. And then they come to the porch and there's a sign on the door saying, please don't knock. There's a baby sleeping. Right. And then they still knock. And then you open the door and they're just standing there and they kind of just nod at you to say, oh, look, it's down there. And you're like, cheers. And you're like, that's frustrating. Although, if I was in their position, would I do it if I was in their position? I mean, yeah, I probably would actually.
Probably.
Yeah. But going back to the hairdresser thing, I think you're overpaying quite significantly. But if the fact that when you go and get your hair cut and they make you feel really relaxed is worth £6, then
£6. Yeah.
You know,
okay. Is that
it's
what?
probably? But I think that's how much you're overpaying by. Yeah. Oh, I was going to tell you this. I once went to I can't remember if it was a Tony and Guy. What are the other ones called? Is it Rush? There's a Rush Hair, isn't there, or something like that?
Yeah.
I went to one in Red Hill. I used to work there. I didn't go specifically. I didn't make the trip to Red Hill specifically to get my hair cut, and I paid close to £50.
Right. Yeah.
That was back in my back in the days that I was trying to impress, and it was not worth it.
No,
because it had no meaningful positive impact on my life.
Yeah, I remember walking into a Tony and Guy actually when I was a student in Manchester, and just casually thinking it would be £10, and then asking how much, and it was around that, and just turning around and saying, okay, thanks.
Yeah, no, that's good. I don't blame you. There, yeah, no, good.
What have you been up to? Anything exciting?
No.
No?
Nothing. No, I looked after Amelia over the weekend, which was lovely. Spent some time with her, which was all good. She's so great. She's so great. I'm so in the dad zone now. I was with her downstairs this morning, and I really, really wanted to adjust the notification settings on my phone because it had been bugging me for a long time, and I thought now could potentially, if I didn't have a kid, now would be the perfect time for me to adjust it. I've got this camera outside, and it just kept going off, and I was like, now's the perfect time to do it. And I made a conscious effort not to, because Amelia was reading The Smartest Giant in Town. Have you?
Yes. Yeah.
You know the Julia
I
Donaldson
do.
books?
Yeah.
Which they're very good, although pretty pointless stories.
It's got a good song at the end, that one, hasn't it? You have to
Yeah,
sing,
yeah, it's quite nice actually, because the animals all sing it at the end, don't they?
Yeah.
To say like thanks.
Yeah. That's
Although, I'm not sure in retrospect, would I have given away all my clothes for a paper crown? Probably not.
No,
but
yeah. Anyway,
sorry. No, go on.
I was just going to say, yeah, he gets his comfy clothes back at the end, though, doesn't he? So he's not, it's a happy ending. He gets his lounging clothes back.
Is it though? Because, like, it's not really, is it? It's not like, what's the other one where it is a happy end? Oh, have you read A Squash and a Squeeze?
No, we haven't got that one.
Right, okay. Can I go through this really quickly?
Yeah.
Right. That's another Junior Donaldson book. Basically, it's this old lady that lives in a really small house. And then she's like, my house is tiny and I'm really frustrated because I haven't got any space and can't do anything in here. And just out of nowhere, this old man walks past. And I don't know what possessed her, but she kind of called out to him and said, oh, hi, like, I've got a really small house. Have you got any suggestions? And he was like, I do actually. He was like, why don't you own a pig, don't you? And she was like, yeah. And then he goes, why don't you take the pig and bring it into your house? And she was like, okay. So she did it. And then she was like, well, this is really annoying because I've brought the pig in and now I've got even less space. And then she was like, have you got any more suggestions? And he was like, yeah, bring in a goat that you own as well. At this point, I'd have been like, this is ridiculous. But she perseveres.
Right.
She brings in the pig, the goat, I think there's a hen, and there's a cow. She brings all of those in, and she gets to this point where they're all in there as well. And she, remembering that she was complaining before all of this happened, to say, my house is incredibly small.
Right.
Now it's tiny because there's so much space in there. And she's like, I'm going bonkers. Like, I've got no space whatsoever. She turns round to the old man and says, what now? And he says, well, take them all out. Take them out one by one. She starts taking them out, and then by the end, when everyone's gone, she's like, I've got so much space. This is amazing. And then she thanks the wise old man. This is, it shows perseverance as well. If ever anyone's telling you to do something and you're thinking, this is madness, do it.
Listen to the stranger on the corner.
Yeah, exactly. Do it, because you don't know where it's going. No matter how crazy, do it. Anyway, so she's really happy at the end, and she's obviously, nice and spacious house, or what she perceives that to be. Going back to it, that's not the case with The Smartest Giant in Town. Because with The Smartest Giant in Town, he gives away all of his clothes.
He gets a nice new suit, doesn't he, at the beginning? He's really happy with it.
He gets a nice new suit, yeah, which he's really happy with, and then he gives them all away to help people. But maybe he's like, oh, I'm really cold, and then he gets his old clothes. But I still think that that's not the moral of the story, because he must be thinking to himself, well, this is better than nothing. I thought the big benefit was that they made a paper crown for him at the end to say thank you.
And they gave him a letter, didn't they? And
yeah, a letter.
Well, yeah, but
sorry, Keaton. Sorry, mate. Sorry. Can I just say one last thing?
Go on.
Just going back to it all. You've done all of that for them, and they've just given you a paper crown and a letter. Does that make it worth it?
I think he's meant to realise what's important, so it's helping people over his own personal gain. But yeah, maybe that's the benefit, the lesson. I think he finds that his new clothes aren't comfortable. I think that's it as well. There's that kind of element to it. So
I didn't pick that up.
Right.
I thought he was just like, I thought when he was like, oh, have my belt, it was too tight anyway. I thought it was more like he was just saying that to make them feel better.
Right, maybe. Yeah.
Maybe I should talk to Amelia about it and see what she thinks. Yeah. But going back to all of this, the reason I was talking about the smartest joint in town is because I didn't update the notification settings on my phone, and I actually, Amelia was pointing to me at the animals, and then I was like, oh yeah, no, very good, that is a sheep.
Yeah.
And that, like you say, they don't want you on your phone, they want you engaging with them.
That's it, yeah. Put down the phone.
Yeah. So no, that was all I did this weekend, was all of that stuff. What about you?
It was nice going outside. Went and had a bit of a suntan. I think I caught the sun.
Weather was lovely, wasn't it?
Yeah. One thing I did do, I was watching highlights to Extreme E. Have you seen that?
No.
New sport. So it's like off-road, 4x4, electric 4x4 cars. They're kind of creating this new sport where they're meant to be travelling around the world to all these different places that are affected by climate change, and racing these massive 4x4s. But all, net zero, kind of carbon neutral, offsetting the power that they need to get around the world and charge the vehicles and things. But it's got some big names in it. I just quite interested to see what it was like. But so Lewis Hamilton's got a team, and ex-Formula 1 driver Nico Rosberg's got a team, and there's some rally champions and things like that.
There's a lot of this going on now, isn't there?
I'm quite interested
Moving
in it.
to electronic versions of original sports.
Yeah, there's Formula E as well, isn't there? So it's the same as Formula 1 but with electronic cars.
Is it becoming more popular?
Well, I think so. I think it's going to go that way. I mean, we talked before about Formula 1 choosing not to go down that route, but I think they probably will at some point. Yeah.
I think it's really interesting actually, because I see it more and more. I was reading something where someone was saying, it was a business that was saying, oh, we're really proud to say that we're going to be carbon neutral by 2025. Businesses are really marketing this and promoting this. And surely the only reason they would be doing that is because they recognise that us as consumers, it's much more important generally to us than it ever has been that the people you're buying from are doing things in a environmentally, good way.
Yeah, there's definitely an appetite, isn't there, for people that you purchase things from to see that they're doing more.
It is interesting. If you look at how it's changed over the last 10 to 20 years, I think people have big issues with Bitcoin and that kind of stuff.
Because of the power consumption for that?
Because of the power consumption. And people look at it and go, well, it's really bad for the environment. If you'd have looked at it 20 years ago, here's a different way of putting it. I remember when I was looking at cars 20 years ago, and they were starting to promote, 20 years ago, about 15 years ago, they were starting to promote miles per gallon and, fuel economy and everything like that. And when fuel wasn't quite as expensive as it is now, I don't know whether it was just that, but I remember thinking to myself, that's not actually that big a deal for me when it comes to buying a car. It's not, it's more important to me the price, it's more important, maybe what the car looks like and stuff like that. But it's much more important now to people who didn't really care about this stuff 15 years ago. And if that's the kind of progression we've made over 15 years, then surely in 15 years' time, it will be more important still, won't it? You'll be making purchases much more on a basis of...
It'll just be the norm, I guess. It won't be a consideration. It'll be accepted that everything has to be that way. Yeah.
Well, it's going to have to be anyway if you look at government legislation. Yeah. No, it's interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, but anyway, I just thought, Extreme E, I was quite interested to see. I wasn't that impressed with the racing, but with the idea, anyway. Well,
what was it on, Sky?
It was on BBC in the UK.
Oh, really?
They went to somewhere in the desert, which was was it Saudi Arabia? Somewhere. So they're going to different parts that are affected by climate change. They're going to oceans and deserts and the Arctic and the Amazon, that kind of thing. It was quite nice. They've taken the cars round on an old 30-year-old boat with one engine running to reduce all this and things like that. So they've thought of kind of a lot about how they're not going to create more pollution like they do. I guess like Formula 1, they obviously fly their cars around the world.
I can hear your dog.
I know. I think there's a supermarket delivery due. We've got like a private road down the side of our house, and sat-navs seem to take people that don't know right down the side of it, and they can't turn around. So when the supermarket vans try and get down there, they get stuck. And then my dog gets very excited that they're getting stuck. So I think that's what's happened. So I can hear a lot of going.
Well, I don't blame him.
Yeah.
I mean, that's probably the highlight to his day, isn't it?
Well, yeah. I don't really know what he's trying to say to them, but yeah.
Welcome. Welcome. We're thrilled to see you, but this is a private road, really, so you should probably go the other way. But as long as you know for next time.
Next time, yeah.
Yeah. That's what I imagine he's saying.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, good stuff.
Yeah. I was going to talk about waffles like after last time. That's what I wanted to bring up with you.
Yeah, it's what were you going to talk about?
Well, after the discovery last time, where we found out that you didn't know that you could put a waffle in the toaster, you were putting yours in the oven, and it seemed to be a big problem.
Can I just say one thing before you go on?
Go on.
I've spoken to a few people about this, and I don't know whether our podcast should just be updated so that it exclusively talks about waffles, because people are much more interested in that than hearing me witter on about the energy industry. But there was one guy that I told, and he's a clever guy. I went to the pub last week, and he said, I didn't know that. And he then, this is the greatest thing, I didn't ask him to do this, he then WhatsApped a few of his mates, and one of them sent back a shocked face emoji because they didn't realise that you can put the waffle in the toaster as well. So this, it's powerful stuff.
Groundbreaking. I've had similar people. I've had people say the same thing to me, which it's. I think it could be a big problem. I think.
Do you know what I do? I mean, our podcast has got various flaws in it, but do you know what I do like about our podcast? We're not scared to tackle the big subjects.
No.
I mean, if you look at some of these other people that release podcasts, they wouldn't go near this waffle subject in their wildest dreams. They'd be scared about losing all of their listeners. But we class, engaging conversation over and above people listening to it.
I think it's an important message as well. I think I was looking at some cooking instructions. So we talked about last time about cooking instructions.
You actually went and did
this. So
do you know what I would have done? I couldn't find any in the freezer, but I was tempted to.
Well,
but
yeah,
please go on.
So one of the put in the toaster. It's one of the on the back of the box, well-known waffle brand in the UK, potato waffles. It says put in the toaster for 5 minutes or oven for 220 degrees for 15 minutes. Yeah. So I was crunching the numbers like you do, and
is that a preheated oven?
Well, exactly. I mean, I don't know if that takes that into.
You could add another 5 minutes onto that.
Yeah, you have to preheat, don't you? So you're right. Actually, I haven't factored that into my calculations.
Schoolboy.
But I mean, let's caveat these calculations that obviously it's myself doing it, so they're probably nowhere near accurate. But an oven uses about 2,500 watts, or a toaster uses 1,200. Right. So obviously, potato waffles are in the oven for. That means that the oven needs twice as much energy there. And needs to be cooked for 3 times as long. So that's a lot of energy that you need to.
Is it more energy than the toaster? Sorry, my maths is so dreadful.
Yeah, so 2,500 watts for the oven and 1,200 for the toaster. So twice the energy needed for the oven, and also for 3 times as long. So that's a lot.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. And so I kind of conservatively estimated about 5 million potato waffles are eaten each year.
I think that's fair enough.
Yeah. So if half of those are cooked in the oven, so half people don't know about that. That's a 525 watt-hour difference between the two of them. So if you total that all up, that's 1,312,500,000 watt-hours difference of energy. Or, if you want to say it the normal way, 1,312,500 kilowatt-hours difference. So fair chunk there.
So we could take this to government.
I think so. It could be like our kind of Save the Whale, campaign. We could start a movement.
It's interesting, isn't it? Maybe we've stumbled our way across saving the world. We need to carefully think about the message.
Well, you see, I've already done this. I've been on it. So I've got some.
Is this what you've been doing last week? Because you went quiet for a couple of days.
This is it. We've put our top brains together, and we've come up with these great tag. I thought every campaign needs a good tagline. So I've got some to hit you with. You ready?
Go on then.
First one.
Yeah.
And waffly big problem.
No.
I was quite confused about an or a there, because obviously you're trying to do awfully, but obviously it's a waffle, so I've gone with an waffly big problem. Anyway.
No, so you don't feel free not to be confused about an or a anymore, because you can disregard that from your thought process for the rest of your life.
Okay. Maybe I thought maybe we targeted kids, and they're quite into their social media. So hashbad, as in like hashtag hashbad, because it's like a potato hash. It's a tenuous link, but.
I mean, it's better than the last one, but still awful.
Potato no waffle. Potato no.
Yeah.
And this is my favourite. The final one's my favourite though. None in the oven.
Can you just explain that to me?
Well, none in the oven. So you don't want to put your waffle in the oven. So we don't want anything in the oven. But it kind of sounds like bun in the oven. I don't know, which is a phrase.
But why? What's a waffle got to do with a bun?
Well, yeah. I mean, it falls apart when you dissect it.
Let's push on this. Let's not just go past this quite swiftly. So none in the oven. Just to understand you more as an individual. So you put the phrase "none in the oven" because of the link with bun, but actually we're talking about waffles.
Well, primarily it's telling you not to put it in the oven. That was my first.
But it's telling you not to put the bun in the oven. It's not telling you anything about the waffle. I mean, if you put this out there onto social media and just went with none in the oven, people would struggle so much to get their head around that.
It would need an accompanying paragraph, definitely.
Yeah, it would do. It would do. It'd need one of those stars to actually fully explain what that means.
This could be like the big poster, none in the oven, billboard, lights, and then underneath. Talking about waffles in toasters and No. So the last one's the one I like the most, just because I think that probably says a lot about your first few, because it had such a D-link to waffles. I think is it was the sarcasm I enjoyed the most out of it. Yeah.
But I think let me think of a positive to say. I think the fact that you've given some thought around the marketing of it is a good thing. I think that's important, because, as I said before, as clearly as just been shown here, we cannot just take this and run with it. We've got to give some careful thought about how we're going to make this topic interesting and make sure that people don't just laugh about it. This is really important. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to go away and I'm going to give some more thought to it. And I think I can come up with a better... What do you call it? A pun?
Yeah, a tagline, I guess. The campaign tagline. It doesn't have to be pun related. I guess I just went down that route. People love a pun, don't they? Don't they? I think something to put on the T-shirts anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I'll start designing T-shirts then.
No.
Imagine being the person or people that have saved 1,312,500,000 watt hours. The energy that's needed to generate that.
Yeah, no, it would be amazing. It would be. It would be. I would be very, very proud if I managed to do that. But then you've got to. That's like turning around and saying, "How brilliant would it be if you were a multi-billionaire? I'm going to start a business." And then you do have to weigh it down slightly and bring reality back to it to go, there's a very, 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 very high chance that I'm not going to be able to do this.
Nonsense.
Yeah. Well, no, make me a believer. Good.
Should we move on to energy-related bits?
Yeah, let's do that.
What would you like to chat about this week?
I want to finish off on the kind of the opening analysis between the UK and the US markets from an energy brokering point of view. And we've talked for the last few weeks about the differences, and I just want to take this back now and go through what some of the similarities are. And then I think that'll round it all off quite nicely. So the good thing is here that generally the process of procuring energy from a broker point of view in the UK and the US is very, very similar. And you would expect that to be the case because energy is energy and procuring is procuring. So there shouldn't be too many big differences from that. So if we go through the process, very, very high level of what you have to do when you're, managing energy procurement within a brokerage, very simply, you have your prospect customer, you identify them, you engage with them, and if they want you to help them, you will then go ahead and get an LOA or a copy bill. Same in the UK and the US. Once you have that copy bill or that LOA, you'll profile them, you'll get the information about them, site, location information, meter, account information, current contract information, so you know when you can next procure for them. Exactly the same, both UK and US. And once you've done that and you've got that information, you can then go and procure it. So you can go and procure that portfolio. Now, you can do that on a bespoke basis, custom pricing basis, same as UK and the US. You send your opportunity or your tender out to market, and then suppliers will respond on that basis. If it's a small opportunity, you can price matrix. Same in the UK and the US. Get instant pricing back and potentially have all of the contract templates ready to send off to the customer. Next stage is that you get that contract back and the customer signs it. Happy days. You have to book it with the supplier. So you'll send it off to the supplier, ask them to book it, lock it in, and wait for that confirmation to come through. And then once that's happened, fantastic. You'll wait for it to register or enroll in the US. So the process is exactly the same. It's all very simplistic, but this is basically how it works. And then as you go through and make sure that it's actually gone live or enrolled with the new supplier, then you'll at some point, hopefully, get paid by the suppliers for the commission that you've got included within those deals as the meter or the account goes ahead and uses that energy. And the payment terms that you have in place with those suppliers, very similar in the UK and US, monthly in arrears or residual or percentages up front. You'll get that money through, and then you'll make sure you're getting paid what you're expecting to get paid. You'll reconcile it all. And then once you've done all of that, you'll start the process again and again and again with all of these other customers. And from a business point of view, you will review the performance of the business, monitoring KPIs, same in the UK, US, number of LOAs you're getting through, how many opportunities you're profiling, how many contracts you're actually striking and putting in place, commission you're earning, etc., etc. So it's great. That's exactly how it works in the UK. That's exactly how it works in the US. And unless I'm misreading the situation, that is pretty much the way it works in any deregulated territory across Europe, Australia, anywhere. I mean, that's deregulated energy procurement in a nutshell. So it's great because what we did, we built a system up for the US and didn't have to make too many wholesale changes because the process are exactly the same. So very, very similar going through that process. That's good. Yeah, nice and simple. And then I suppose, again, this is quite obvious, but it's good to hear actually when I do demos and chats with people in the US, is that it's not all just about the procurement side of things. So again, this is probably really obvious, but it's, like I say, it's good to hear, is that every country pretty much is signed up to tackling climate change and getting energy reduction measures in place. And it's the same in the US. So you've got two different types of brokerage company. You've got a standard broker that will just focus on the procurement. Same in the UK, same in the US. Then you've got a consultancy that's like, well, procurement is one piece of what I do, but I do all of this other stuff as well. I do bill validation verification. I look at the customer's energy profile, and I'll put a risk management process in place to make sure that they're, we're managing their budgets, and we're doing all of their cost analysis and managing all of that effectively. We'll look at energy saving opportunities. We'll put LED lighting in place and battery storage and all of this side of things, demand side response. We'll look at any local legislation that's in place that you might have to adhere to, climate agreements or opportunity schemes or anything like that. And we'll make sure that these companies are adhering to those policies. And it's the same in the States as it is in the UK. It's big out there as well. And consultancies, make a living off having an understanding on the best way to, manage that entire energy portfolio and drive savings across the business, whilst also making sure that those businesses are operating in a world now, as we said before, where it's much more important to be perceived and actually be energy efficient. And that's a big thing in the States as well. So it's the same. I wanted to say that because it's the same in the UK. You know, you can get a bit stuck in a rut sometimes, thinking the only thing you talk about is procurement. But I believe that that's all going to change. I said this in another podcast. I know we've been talking about this for years, but procurement and the need for procurement on its own will die over the next 5 to 10 years. And you're going to need to provide additional services to customers, not just corporates, but smaller businesses as well, which are going to be put under more and more pressure to make sure that they're adhering to, you know, making sure they're as energy efficient as possible. And that's where these bigger consultancies will come in with all of these different offerings. And it's the same in the States. There's a big push on this, and it's where the future of the energy industry is going. So
do you think that will
good to see?
Do you think that will one day bleed over into generating green power for the, you know, businesses be encouraged to generate their own green power?
Yeah, I think so. When the technology catches up, I said it before that we shouldn't be under any illusion that that is an easy thing to do. If you look at it from both the UK and the US point of view, you look at really old scale generation systems. If you look at it in the UK, we've got a really, really old generation system, and we still have things coming out in the news every winter saying, oh, there's going to be power shortages and there's going to be blackouts every winter. It's in these various newspapers, this scaremongering. And if we're still like that, with our energy mix becoming more and more green now, and we're, you know, that's still only a sliver of the overall generation mix, you know, it shows that we're still nowhere near getting to a point where at a micro level, people can just become completely self-sufficient. I do think it will happen more and more over the next 20 years with PPAs and the ability to actually select your source in an easier way, but we're nowhere near that.
Well, we talked previously, didn't we, about Tesla and their roof tiles, and I did actually have a little look after we spoke about that, and you know that's still been, I mean, that's been promised for a few years now, and I don't think we still have it in the UK, do we? I think it's just a US only thing at the moment, but that's really interesting, where you can again convert your roof tiles to be solar panels, and then you can store them up with they've got Tesla power walls and things like that. But I mean, that's on a residential scale. But yeah,
I do think that we spoke about this before. I do think it is the next opportunity for real disruption. Like, you know, that next big step change. You know, you saw it with the internet and with computers. And if you look at the technology that could come into the energy industry, that is a big disruptor. I do think that mass adoption of electric vehicles will drive that. You get a lot of people commentating on Tesla and electric vehicles, and you get a lot of people saying, oh, well, you know, it's fine if only a small number of people use it, but you're already under a lot of pressure with electricity generation. What happens if every household is plugging their cars in overnight? You know, the network will struggle with it. Yeah, the current network will. But the reason why I imagine Elon Musk and Tesla Elon Musk as an individual is, you know, operating businesses for battery storage and micro generation, is that he realizes that this is the first stage with electric vehicles. You get those on the road and you try and get mass adoption of that. But then once you've done that, you're going to have this problem of how people are actually going to, you know, charge them up overnight. It's a bit like when Apple released the iPod.
Yeah.
And they got mass adoption on that, and they made huge profits. Steve Jobs realised very, very quickly, it's like, great, I've released the iPod, but we may not even want to build a phone, but we have to build a phone. Because if we don't build a phone, then people are going to see this iPod, and they're going to basically put that technology into their phones, and it will make the iPod redundant. And they had to go down that route. They saw that based on the success of the iPod, they had to evolve their product into the iPhone. And I do think with Elon Musk, he'll look at it and go, right, okay, so I've got mass adoption on the road of my electric cars now, and you've got this massive demand suddenly there for, you know, micro generation. And then that's going to be the area that all of these companies are going to make an absolute fortune out of it, because suddenly we're all going to need it. And sorry, just going back to the main question you asked there, do I think that that will happen? Well, that's where I think you'll suddenly slowly start moving away from centralized generation networks and then go at a micro level, because it's all about demand at the end of the day. And as soon as us as individuals have an electric car, and then you see the central network actually struggling, so you don't know whether you're going to be able to charge your car overnight or not, then suddenly that creates a demand for you, and a requirement and a need for you to install solar panels on your roof, or to have battery technology in your house. Because then suddenly we need that, and we don't want to rely on a central network. And then through that creation of need, we'll move everything across, in my opinion. But like I say, I mean, if you look at, this goes back to, because you go, well, when's it going to be that we've all got electric cars on the road? Well, they've said 2030, isn't it, that they stop producing petrol and diesel engine cars. So you've still got a while away yet. I think it will take that long, if not longer, for the way we procure and manage energy, or brokers manage that process, for that to change as well.
Yeah. There's always that argument as well that the batteries that to create the batteries in electric cars creates there's only a certain amount of lithium that they need to mine, and so that always is the argument that people that are in favour of petrol cars, how are you going to get all that lithium to make all the batteries to replace those cars? But I guess again it's these kind of little inroads that then people find other ways to do this similar
did they have that problem with fossil fuels back in the day though? I really don't know enough about this, but when the car was first created, and then suddenly they felt that the easiest fuel to use would be oil, was there people at the time that were like, my goodness, if there's mass adoption of this, where are we going to get all of the oil to get these cars roadworthy and actually being able to use them? And then suddenly R&D is all invested into that space, and then suddenly there's more sophisticated drilling techniques and everything like that, and then suddenly it's like, oh, it's actually really easy to get this stuff out of the ground. Maybe lithium as a commodity will replace oil in terms of its requirement and need globally, because of this mass change. And then suddenly, if that's the case, I really don't know a lot about this, but then suddenly if that's the case, then they'll start looking at ways to obtain that as a commodity and then get that through. So maybe it's a similar thing. Maybe we just need to look at history and look at the way it's worked in the past, and that's a pretty good indicator of how it's going to work in the future.
Yeah, I agree. I guess trusting technology will always, people, there's a need and there's a money to be made, I guess, at the end of the day, then that will drive maybe different ways to create batteries, and yeah.
But it is interesting. It's only as we talk about it, because we talked about solar panels in one of our first podcasts. What is the need, apart from doing the right thing, to have a solar panel on your roof? It's too easy at the moment just to have an electricity meter and just pay for your electricity. The payback on having solar panels put on your roof is not worth it.
No, because
of the feed-in tariffs and things like that have gone. It's not worth the investment, because it will take too long to get that money back.
Yeah.
Maybe it will be that point that you have electric vehicles, and I can't think of it right now, but you'll have other technologies that suddenly have this requirement for more electricity to be used in our households, and that'll be the time that actually, it becomes as standard when you look around a house and go, I assume it's got central heating. I assume you've got a toilet and a shower and a bath in your house. Maybe it will become as standard as that you're like, oh, I assume you've got these, Elon Musk solar panels on your roof, or solar tiles. Maybe it'll become as expected as that in 15. Look, actually, the more I think about it, the more I think it must do, because surely the price of electricity through a centralised generation will become more and more expensive, and then there'll be a monetary requirement for you to look at alternative ways to generate electricity in your house. It's a shame we didn't talk about this at the beginning of the podcast, because it is interesting, isn't it?
It is, yeah, it is, and where it's going to go, I guess. And then there's hydrogen as well, which we haven't even touched on, and that kind of thing. So I guess there's always avenues of generating different, sources of power. It's interesting that as well that we're kind of talking about the residential will kind of drive commercial, maybe, because at the moment that seems to be the way. The residentials are the ones that are investing in the solar power, where I wonder when that will flip. Like you say, when companies will become aware that they can generate their own power, and there's going to be a need for that.
Yeah, I don't know. Again, it's about, as you say, it's about having that need. I think that businesses are doing really good things, pressured by the government to move in this direction. I think it's going to be money at the end of the day that's going to drive it. I don't know enough about this, and again, it's a good topic for future to get someone on about carbon credits,
right?
Carbon payments, and going through tendering on that. I think that carbon is going to become, something that you have to pay for as a business as well.
Right.
And I think when that happens, there will be a big requirement from a business point of view. I mean, if you're looking at paying carbon off in the same way that, I don't know, you look at any efficiency that you look in your business as an operational cost, you'll suddenly look at the way that you produce electricity as a way to potentially save money. And I think that's the way the government's going, but I don't know enough about it.
That would be a good future episode then for us to focus on.
Yeah.
Should we draw it to a close then? That's a lot of waffling.
Yeah, let's do that. Next time I want to see if we can get a guest on.
I'd like that.
To talk about some US stuff and some of the bits that we've gone through and we rambled through and we didn't really know what we were talking about. I'd like to get their input on it. So maybe we can do that and then look at one of these other topics we've just been talking about and actually focus an entire session on that.
Brilliant. Cool. I'll get to work on the T-shirts as well.
Yeah, don't. I mean, let's. Why don't you think about something in your head and then next time we speak to share it?